Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Paul, and earlier you saw Max on the gun. So today we're back to shooting some pistol and to a design that many are familiar with, the 2011. But you may not be familiar with the manufacturer name that came with it, Staccato. Well, if you were rolling around the competition circuit in the last few years, you definitely heard of their previous name when they were the artists formerly known as STI Firearms. But recently they decided to switch their focus to duty-oriented service pistol instead. Hence, STI was reborn as Staccato. And one of the results of that successful rebirth is this model, the Staccato P DPO. And just to be specific about the model name, DPO designates this option as the optics ready model, and then P, given its release date, I'm guessing stands for pandemic. Just kidding. I don't really know what P stands for, but I'm guessing it's the professional model. And just to note, Staccato was gracious enough to provide us this model for eval. So since this pistol is trying to satisfy a lot of different audiences, I think the obvious question is, what features make up its claim that it's the world's best shooting duty pistol? And if that claim is true, is it really worth its premium asking price? Well, we're gonna find out right now, so let's go. Design and profile. So first thing you'll notice out of the box is aesthetically, this is a beautiful pistol with quality machining all around, especially with this black DLC, the diamond-like coating they used all around the pistol, which supposedly makes it extremely durable, but while looking good at the same time. Now size-wise, it's a little bit longer and a little bit larger than most full-size service pistols like this MNP. It's got a 4.4-inch bull barrel, so it's a little bit longer than the 4.1, but it's just shy of the 5-inch government profile barrels that you're typically used to seeing on a 1911. And while you're looking inside the pistol, you will notice that the Dawson toolless guide rod that they included, also new with this version, comes standard with a 13-pound recoil spring for shooting factory loads. However, if you are using light recoil loads, you probably want to go with the 11-pound blue spring. But if you're shooting hotter plus P ammo, you'll definitely want to go with the red 15-pound spring. All of these can be found on the Dawson Precision website. So speaking of reloading, let's talk about those mags. Now new for this version, you do get 3 stainless steel double stack 9mm mags. You get 2 17-rounders and 1 20-rounder. So just on your belt, you got 54 rounds there, which is awesome. Also new for this version, these mags come with the aluminum base pad. Now these base pads prevent you from over inserting the mag up into the mag well and pushing up against the slide stop, which was a problem in earlier versions. Now also included with this version is the Tactical Advantage mag well, and what I found is it's not that flared out, but it's still smooth on the edges, so it makes for really easy reloading. Now, because of previous reports of earlier mag problems, we were especially watchful for it, but with these new magazines, what we found is they just kept working and working and working. So one last note about its profile is you'll see us using different holsters throughout this video, because actually finding a holster that worked with this pistol was a little bit more work than I thought it'd be. But after a lot of work, we did find that the Weber Tactical worked okay, and the Safariland GLS, which we found from previous videos, actually worked out really well. So once we were able to find the correct holster, we can then take a look at actually how the pistol handles, and we'll do that in the next section coming up. Controls and handling. So when it comes to the controls, if you ever shot a 1911, you're going to be super comfortable with these controls. And that comfort starts with the grip. Starting in the 2021 version, this comes with a C2 grip, originally developed by STI to replace their version 1 tree bark grip. As far as sizing, for my hands and Max's hands, it completely fills the hand. Having said that, if you have smaller hands or hands that get like sweaty under fire, I can definitely see you wanting to add some more stipple. And while we're talking about grip, I do want to make mention of the grip safety. I know a lot of dudes don't like grip safeties on 1911s and 2011s, so they disable them, but if you were to have a grip safety straight out of the factory, I think Staccato's implementation of it is just right on. It blends really well into the frame, and more importantly, the pressure to deactivate it is just right on. And you can especially feel it when you're shooting one-handed, because you don't have much back pressure on the back strap as you do when you're shooting two-handed. And while we're talking about safeties, as far as the external safety and where the thumb sits, I think it feels just perfect as far as like the right amount of pressure to activate and deactivate it, without any accidental bumping when you're drawing from the holster or holstering. And just for the safety, you'll find the slide stop lever. Now, as far as design-wise, it is a little bit recessed into the slide. I can see why they do that, to prevent accidental activation when you're at the last round bolt open. Well, because it's recessed like that, it's a little bit harder to work at speed, and also where it is positionally and the size of it, it makes it kind of hard to activate unless you have really long thumbs. So if you don't have those long thumbs like me, you have to come off the grip and reach around and hit it. Of course, you could always hit it with your support thumb and the last stroke of your reload. And speaking of those magazines and the magazine release, the circular design and the pressure it takes to activate it is actually almost perfect. And when you pair that with the drop-free stainless mags, like basically you just have to push it just a little bit and the mags just drop free. And of course, since this comes with the flared mag well, like reloading is just super easy with this gun. So controls wise, whether you're a long-time 1911 shooter or just coming over from polymers, I think the controls are laid out really intuitively and really well. Maybe, you know, outside of that slide stop lever, it's a little bit too small, but you can definitely train your way around that. So once you get through that, then you kind of progress quickly to the, hey, I'm going to shoot this gun fast stage. And we'll talk about that more in the next section coming up. Sights and trigger. So for sighting system, the DPO is kind of unique in that way, in that you can direct mount an optic like the Leupold Delta Point Pro directly to the slide. But if you want to use something else like a Trijicon RMR or Holosun, you do need to buy the additional plates. Co-witnessing the irons is very easy. If you get the Delta Point Pro iron sight that mounts on the back of the red dot, then you can just co-witness with the front sight. And if you are getting something like the Trijicon RMR or the Holosun, the adapter plate itself comes with its own rear iron sight for co-witness. So we'll talk about that more when we actually look at the red dot configuration in a later video. But for now, we're taking a closer look at the included iron sights, which are rear adjustable Dawson sights paired with a front fiber optic, which is really bright for easy viewing and fast up-close shooting. The rears are checkered for glare, and as far as the front fiber optic sights, they do taper down as you get closer to the top fiber optic pipe. And as with other pistols, I really dig this kind of setup where you actually have the black rear irons with a fiber optic front. It's almost like shooting a red dot. You can track the sight really easy, especially through wide transitions. By the way, we're talking about tracking. I do want to make a note of how flat this gun shoots. I'm not sure whether that's due to the heavier and longer slide or due to its Dawson recoil system, but it does just straight out work. And of course, shooting 9 out of a steel frame gun, which absorbs most of the recoil, the return to neutral occurs really fast, and it just makes it for a really pleasant shooting experience. But if you're not going fast and you're out of distance shooting at something small, like a small IPSC, I do notice that the front fiber is a little bit too wide, a little bit too big. So you're not leaving enough daylight in between the rear sights. So that's kind of a personal preference thing. But you can get good groupings at 25 and 50 yards as we were shooting. However, I noticed the grips were going high at the top of the front sight blade and slightly left, so we do need to adjust the rear sight later. And what really helps you shooting at range is the trigger. So we put the trigger on our trigger gauge and we measured it at 4¼ pounds. It was kind of surprising because it actually feels a lot lighter than that. So there's a distinct take up and there's a wall and there's a super clean, crisp break. And once there's a break, there's like no over travel on that break. And also when you're going to reset, the reset is extremely short. So it's really easy to shoot this thing fast and precise. So when it comes to sights or triggers, this is one of those pistols where I don't think you're held back with anything out of the box. If there is any out of the box limitation, maybe, like as I mentioned, the sights are a little bit too big. So once you get a red dot on this thing, it's just really gonna fly. So as I mentioned earlier, stay tuned. We'll talk about that in a later video coming up. Hey, we're back. So what's the final verdict on the Staccato P DPO? So let's circle back to the prior question we had at the beginning. If you compare this to other service pistols, I think it's a pretty wide delta. If you were to take this pistol and put it into the hands of someone who's similarly trained on a polymer pistol, I think what you see is the accuracy score is going way up just due to the trigger alone. And since this is a service pistol, you always think about reliability. And just from our small sample, what we did was we shot just over 300 rounds of commercial 9 reloads. And when we first got the pistol, we just took it straight out of the box. We put no lube on it and started shooting it. The pistol ran perfectly, probably until the night shoot or so, when we started noticing the slide starting to slow down. And that's when we had our first failure to feed. So in retrospect, if we had put some additional lube on it, who knows how long it would have shot. It probably would have kept stitching all day long and all night long. And to the biggest question of all, does it really deserve its premium price? When it comes to LPVOs, you really do get what you pay for. Of course, if you pay less for a lot less, you can definitely get to the same destination, although the ride and the journey there is not as nice. So just like the Collis and the Swarovski you've been eyeing, if you want the best in your hands, I think this is it. If you're willing to spend the money, I definitely think it's a worthy buy. And that's the final verdict. Hope it helps. And if it did, please consider sharing this video so the small channel can keep growing. And as always, if you're interested in the equipment scene, I'll list it in the description below. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.